20s and you're feeling a little bit behind, confused, or like everyone else has like this little roadmap to success that maybe you're left out of, then this video is definitely for you. Hi, my name is Alexis and welcome back to my channel. I think a lot of people stress about their 20s. There's a lot of pressure to have everything figured out. Career, relationships, finances, purpose, and to be honest, we're all still figuring it out. But as I've turned 30 this year, I wanted to compile my top 10 tips to really help you enter your 20s and even finish off your 20s with more stability, more confidence, and just like a stronger sense of direction on who you are, where you want to go, and like how you can set yourself up for the future. So the first step is start investing in a Roth IRA if you haven't already. So a Roth IRA is a type of retirement account where the funds that you put in that account are already taxed. So typically, like with the retirement account, you're putting in pre-tax dollars, and then when you retire, taxes get taken out. But with a Roth IRA, because the money that you're putting into the account is already taxed, when you pull out the money at retirement age, it is not taxed. The key here with a Roth IRA and the real bread and butter here is the compound interest. And when you start really, really young, like in your 20s, that compound interest is only going to grow over time. And so maybe someone that started a Roth IRA in their 30s, and let's say they put the same amount that you would be putting in your 20s, when it comes to that retirement age, the person that started early in their 20s is naturally going to have more just because they have more years of compound interest. So more years of the money sitting there and kind of working for them. If you don't know a lot about like retirement accounts or investing, I will say I am not a financial advisor, but my brother does work in finance, and this was like one of the big things that he helped me with. One of the books I would start with it's called Girls That Invest by Simran Kaur. I think that's her name. And I'll link it below for sure. It is a fantastic beginner's guide on investing. So if step one just kind of feels like a lot, definitely start by reading that book. It taught me so much. And really what you're doing here is you are setting up your future self financially. It's easy to get started in your 20s and just like want to have the job and the finances and the house and all this stuff to feel like you have it all together. But the big thing and the big advantage to being in your 20s is you have so many years that you can start financially planning for yourself and making those smart decisions so that when you're older, you know, you are now reaping the benefits of what you started when you were in your 20s. Two is you need to write. Yeah, you need to write. You need to take pen to paper every day or at least a few times a week. So many creators, investors, businesswomen, and men really talk about the value of writing. And there's also been some research shown that writing or journaling helps decrease anxiety, ruminating thoughts, depression, and it helps a lot with like clearing the mind. The person who really showed me the value of journaling, although I've done it like occasionally in my early like teens and a little bit in my 20s, was Julia Cameron. She wrote a book called The Artist Way, where she talks about the morning pages. And the morning pages are an opportunity to write down stream of consciousness, anything that's on your mind. You're not grammar checking, you're not trying to sound perfect, you're not trying to even like make sense. You're basically just dumping everything out that's in your head onto paper. Now the value of this really comes in because in your 20s, there's going to be a lot of opinions, and some do come from a place of, you know, love and care about what you should be doing or what you should be focusing on or the right path for you. And I think one of the key things here is being able to discern like what is somebody else's voice, what's society's voice versus what is my own voice. And one of the things that really helped me distinguish that difference was having a really strong writing and journaling practice. So if you don't have one already, I would highly recommend, even if you did 1,000 words, you did a bullet point journal, ideally you'd want to eventually get to 2 to 3 pages, because that's where you're going to start to just let things out. And then when you have new ideas or when you're coming face to face with a decision, you're going to have a lot more mental clarity on like which direction to go. So definitely develop a writing practice. Also, you're going to be writing like tons of emails, you know, for work, or you might be like doing some sort of like written communication for work, I don't know, but having a habit or a skill of writing is really going to set you years ahead in terms of mental health if you start in your 20s. Okay, tip number 3 is to protect that first hour of the day. That first few hours or even hour before you go to work is so important. The last thing you want to do is wake up and just immediately start getting ready for work. I have done that in the past, and we've all had those days where we're rushing and we just want to get out the door. But that often leads to a lot of frustration and a lot of burnout because you are essentially making no time for yourself. And when you're starting your day answering everyone else's tasks and demands and calls, it leaves you with like no room for yourself. And then for me, I ended up getting like frustrated or burnt out and just overall like annoyed with myself. And then I also felt like I wasn't making time for like my goals or the things that I wanted. So protect that first hour, whether it's a morning walk, or maybe it's like some gentle exercise, maybe it's making yourself like a really delicious drink in the morning or even in the afternoon if you have a job that requires you to go in at night. But just try your best to avoid like immediately getting up and going to work. Essentially what you're doing here is setting aside that time for yourself, and that essentially is like a form of self-care so that you are giving yourself the nourishment and the space that you need to feel good before you go and, you know, answer emails and like do things for other people. Also, one thing to tack onto this, another beneficial thing to do in addition to this would be to start with your hardest task first. It's so easy to just delay the hard task till the end of the day or to keep pushing it off to the end of the week. And the more that I've done that in my past, I've realized that I've created a lot more anxiety and I feel more like there's a lot of like mental unrest when I'm not doing what I know I should be doing. So if I knock out that first difficult task at the beginning of the day, then the rest of my day is so much smoother. And I also feel really good about myself. And so there's also like a little bit of like a dopamine hit too, where if you are tackling that hard thing at the beginning of the day, you're showing yourself that you can do hard things, and then you're rewarding yourself later with like, you know, maybe watching like one of your favorite shows, hanging out with your friends, or reading a good book, and then you're able to enjoy that activity genuinely without like having that impending doom of like, oh my gosh, I need to do this thing and I didn't do it. Oh well, I'm just gonna keep reading. And then it kind of like eats you up from the inside out. Don't do that. Next, this is tip number 4. Visibility is a skill. And I think this is really important in today's generation with the rise of social media. Portfolios are now being required for all kinds of different work or writing samples, and having some sort of visibility out there is essentially going to help establish you as someone who is more of a thought leader or a little bit more, or has more expertise in their area of interest. This is not to say everyone needs to, you know, be a full-blown content creator. I don't think that that's like what's best for humanity. But what I am saying is that it's so important to compile the work that you've done and have it on hand for in case someone wants to see it. So for example, like having a portfolio of your work, having a website, or even if you're a novelist, having an Instagram or a TikTok of like a few excerpts from your novel. So the more that you're putting your work out there, the more people are seeing it, and then that is sort of increasing your bank of opportunity for jobs, for maybe like a speaking opportunity or a collaboration or pretty much anything. You never know. But if you're not making yourself visible, it's really hard for like people and things and opportunities and like luck to find you. So it doesn't have to be this like super polished way, but I think as long as you are being genuine and showing what you love, I think that speaks for itself. And another thing too, I think the hardest thing about visibility is letting yourself be seen. But once you get over that hump, and if you start practicing early in your 20s, it gets easier over time. 5 is to make time for creativity. Not everything in your life needs to be productive. Not everything in your life needs to be productive. Some of my best ideas and like my most rapid like inspirational hits come from me doing stuff that has nothing to do with work. Your 20s, it's so easy for your 20s to become this like long checklist of goals that you have to hit and milestones that you have to hit every single year in order to be okay, in order to fit in with your friends, in order to feel socially accepted. But all that aside, your creativity is part of what makes you you, and it's also part of what makes you human. So finding a way to make time for a hobby, to paint, to write, to take photos, whatever it is, give yourself that time to remind yourself that you are more than just your job title, and that you are a person, and that you can absolutely pursue other things outside of your job, outside of work, and even outside of your goals. Not every hobby needs to be a goal. It doesn't need to be good. It doesn't need to be productive. It can literally be a hobby. I love painting. I'm so bad at it and I don't care. And like that is really freeing for me. Same with pottery. I've also picked up pottery this past year. I've made a bunch of bowls. They're not very good. I don't care. I'm super proud of them. And I love taking my hand to clay and like making something. And part of like the joy in that is that it's carefree, no one cares. And yeah, I think that's like kind of what makes it fun. So schedule time to be creative and like just do and be silly, be a child. Plug that I wanted to make for The Artist Way. This is just like, I'm gonna say this book probably a lot through this video, but in week 6, Julia talks about recovering a sense of abundance. And she mentions that we cling to our financial concerns as a way to not only avoid our art, but our spiritual growth. And sometimes we will put our productivity and our job titles and our goals and to-do list above that, thinking that that's the safe option or that's going to be what's best, when in reality, it doesn't always have to be that way. Sometimes it is like the really frivolous, fun art that grows us beyond what we think or provides for us in ways that we can't even imagine. And so that's also something to take in if you're struggling with like being less productive or being more frivolous with your time or being more whimsy, as the girlies say, is to think about how important that creativity is and what a limiting belief it is to think that creativity isn't as important as, or if isn't as important, or if not more important than productivity. I hope I said that right. 6, make sure that your goals are actually yours. And this sounds really self-explanatory, but I just wanted to break it down because there are certain milestones that have become really popular, and they are kind of portrayed in society as like the milestones, like getting married or getting a house or having a baby or you know, getting like a master's degree, and like all of those things are amazing if those are things you actually want. I remember thinking that I needed to like be married by a certain age, or else like I was gonna be like a miserable like single cat or dog lady. But I actually realized it's not one of my goals to get married until I'm like in my like early to mid 30s, because I am still figuring out so much about myself in my 20s. And so it's really easy to like get caught up in social media and see what everyone else is doing, and then to be like, okay, well, I need to do that. Like, I need to get the promotion. I need to be at this point in my career. But sometimes you don't even really want that career to begin with. So one of the questions I like to ask myself is that if nobody saw this, or if nobody could see this, would I still want it? Ask yourself that question the next time that you have a goal, just as a benchmark to see, is this goal really mine? And then that can help you from building a life that you're not really happy with, and it can help you focus more on building a life that's genuine and that's for you, even if it like looks really different from what you're seeing. Your 20s become a lot less confusing when you stop trying to fit in and you just start paying attention to what feels good and what matters to you. Then like your path becomes really unique and it becomes a lot easier. If you're constantly chasing after these goals because those are the goals to chase after, you're just going to be spinning your wheels and you're going to be frustrated. Number 7 is to let yourself pivot. The average American has, I think it's like 7 career changes in their whole lifetime. And this is not like 7 different jobs. This is 7 career changes. Like the average person changes careers 7 times. And that's okay. It's great if you are one-track minded and you want to be this thing and then you go and you do that thing. But if you are doing something and you're like, I don't really like this, it's okay to pivot. It's really not going to be the end of the world, and it's not too late. It's never too late. I think we should see more people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, like going back to school, because we're lifelong learners. Like, why not go back to school and learn something else or get a different degree? Like, that's just how life is. Like, we should never stop learning, and we're constantly evolving. So don't be afraid to pivot, start the business, move to the city, start making the content, and just see what happens. But don't pigeonhole yourself to this one thing because you want to be perceived as like a perfectionist or like consistent. You can still be consistent and like a jack of many trades. I'm really messing up these phrases. Basically what I mean is that your 20s are not a straight line. And that's what I used to think. I used to think that your 20s are supposed to be like leading you up to your 30s, and then it's going up, and then for some reason like after like 35 it goes downhill, but that's just not true. But like it's more of like a curve and a zigzag and a here, there, over there, and that's okay. Like your 20s are not supposed to be this like straight exponential line upwards. Tip number 8 is a really simple one, but it's to build a habit of movement and to build an identity of someone that moves and enjoys moving their body. So this isn't to say like we need to be working out like 6-7 days a week unless like you really enjoy that. But I do think it's important while you're in your early 20s to start the habit of moving your body on a regular basis. I don't even need to like go into detail about the health reasons behind that because I'm not a doctor, but it has been proven you know, getting movement in and building that habit as early as possible will help you exponentially in your health as you get older and as things change. And it's okay for your exercise routine and things like that to change, but as long as you build that habit of being that person who moves their body every day, that's going to be such a key identity to hold in your 20s that you can then carry with you into your older ages. So you could be someone who walks, someone who loves to train, someone who loves to lift weights, someone who loves to rock climb or swim or whatever that is, but make it less about needing to work out and make it more about I'm someone that loves movement, or I'm someone that likes to do this. Tip number 9 is to build an emergency fund. Dave Ramsey gives a lot of financial advice, and like one of the top pieces of advice for people who are working towards like better financial literacy is to build an emergency fund of $1,000, and then once you hit that mark, eventually build a fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. In your 20s, I know you're probably not making that much money, but again, even if you can put away like $10, $20, $50, maybe $100 every month, that is going to help you in the long run, because it's not like an emergency won't happen. Emergencies happen, life happens, but you want to be prepared, and you're going to have a lot less anxiety and anguish if you already have an account set aside to handle those things that come up. Lesson number 10, and I will say this one was the hardest for me, but not all friendships are going to last or will last in your 20s, and that is okay. I remember graduating college, and you know, a lot of my friends like moved to different states, and I did feel lonely, but I was able to build a network of friends at work. And then once I left that job, I did keep in touch with some friends, but I didn't keep in touch with others, and I started to like beat myself up about it because I felt like I needed to keep like every single friend that I met as I don't even know why I thought that. I don't know. I think it's probably like a scarcity mindset about like not wanting to be lonely. But sometimes relationships end and they fade, and like people are meant to be in your life for a season, and like that's totally fine. The goal isn't to keep every friendship you've had forever throughout your 20s, but the goal is to appreciate the people who are aligned with who you are at that point in time. And I think there's something really special about that, because you are going to change a lot in your 20s, and some people are going to understand that and ride with you, and some people aren't, and that's okay. I think it's worse to be in a friendship that feels stifled and like you can't be yourself than to be in a friendship that feels like you can be yourself and you can be authentic. So, you know, I definitely had friends who have tried to always give me this sense of like realism, which I appreciate, but then once I got to like my mid to late 20s, it sort of became destructive because I am building something and I want to be delusional about it, and that's really fun for me. And like that was, I wanted support in that, and some friends were giving me that support and some weren't. So I think it's also like shedding a dead weight too, when you just like let the friends who are, keep the friends that are easy. Sometimes like my longest lasting best friends are like the ones that are super low maintenance. Low maintenance friends are the best. And if you have them, hold on to them. And like, if you want to be that low maintenance friend, be a low maintenance friend. Just support your girls, and unless it's causing you like a lot of harm, support them. My 10 tips for your 20s. I hope these helped you even a little bit. If you are feeling uncertain or you're just feeling a little lost right now, that doesn't mean that anything is wrong. I will say you don't need to immediately implement these 10 things right here and now. Don't do that. Don't put that pressure on yourself, but pick one, try it out for the next 30 days, and then comment below like what you noticed, what's happened. Was it easy for you to implement? Was it difficult? What you learned? I want to know. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.